In this video, I'm going to show you how to write up a listing agreement. It's going to be based off of the video called How to Run a CMA. We've already ran the CMA on this particular property, so we know what it should be priced at. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you the property on HAR that we're going to be putting together a mock listing for. So the property is 1310 Eden Meadows. And this is a way to get to it if you have, if it's ever been listed on HAR before. Now, if it hasn't, you would just go to Public Records and Realist. Let me exit here so I can show you. You would go to Public Records, Realist, and then pull up the tax search and search for it. Since this one has, I'm going to go ahead and click on this. I'm going to come over here to dot loop, and I'm going to start a loop called 1310 Eden Meadows. I hit create loop. And the very first thing is I want to be able to add my people, as in my sellers. That way they can electronically sign. Dot loop will allow you to send the documents for them to electronically sign it. So I'm click on that tax account number, and it will open up the taxes. Let me see if I can launch Realist. So here is the tax information right here. My seller's name is Leslie Nowak. So I'm going to go ahead and put her in as my seller. So I'm going to hit add person. And then I'm going to add an email address for her. We'll just make up a fake one. And we're going to make the role. She is our seller. And I'm going to hit add person. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to come over here and hit view details. And I want to fill in some of this information because it's going to make it easier when we go to add contracts. Dot loop will auto-populate it, which is really nice. It'll save you some time. Let's see, the zip code there is 77386. And then let's just come down here and we'll just hit save for now. Okay, so now that that is done, I'm going to go back to my loop. And now I'm going to start adding documents, so the contracts I need. And if I look at my contracts checklist, which can also be found on our website, I'm looking for listing documents. So I'm going to have my listing documents here. Basically, you're going to have 3 folders in your listing loop. So you'll have your listing documents, your contract documents, and your closing documents, which means you're going to submit for compliance 3 different times. After you've got all your listing documents signed, after you got all the contract documents signed, and then after you close. So let's go ahead and set up those folders. So I've got one folder here. I'm going to come over here and click on this little drop down. I'm going to hit rename, and I'm going to make this my listing folder. And I'm going to add one more folder and make this my contract folder. And then my very last folder is going to be my closing folder. Now, you're not going to have anything in your contract and closing folder at this time, but they're there ready waiting for you whenever you do get it under contract. So let's add documents to the listing folder. So coming back over here to this contracts checklist, I can see what I need. I need the information about brokerage services, the listing agreement. I'm going to have an MLS printout once it gets actually put into the MLS. Until then, you won't have it. Tax records is a square footage reference. I'm going to need seller's disclosures, the KW addendum to seller's disclosures, and if it's in the mud, I'm going to need the mud. If it's out in more of the rural area, you may have an on-site sewer facility. And then if the sellers have flood insurance, whether they're in a floodplain or not, you'll need information about special flood hazard areas. So let's go ahead and add from templates the documents you're going to need. So right over here is a list of folders for the types of contracts you need. So if I'm working with the listing, I'm going to go to Broker Listing Residential. The first thing I do need is the information about brokerage services. I'm going to do version now for that one because I know there's a new one that we'll be using in January. So I'm going to go ahead and use that one now. So it's right here, new information about brokerage services. And now I'm going to go back to my listing residential. I need the listing agreement. So if I just start typing in a keyword there, it'll pop up. And here it is right here, residential real estate listing agreement. I also know I need this new CFPB listing final addendum. After the new CFPB rules came out in October, we have to put this in our loop now. Now, some other documents I needed were the seller's disclosures, the KW addendum to seller's disclosures, and the notice to a purchaser in real property water district. So let me find the seller's disclosures. Here they are right here. If I type in water as a keyword, there's my water district, which is also called the MUD. And the one that said KW addendum to seller's disclosures, if it has KW in front of it, it's going to be one of these KWWD forms. So that one is this one right here, addendum to sellers. So now I'm going to hit add documents. And now they are all in my loop. What I want to do first is I'm going to drag them in the order according to that sheet that I need. So I know I need the information about brokerage services, the listing agreement, the CFPB listing addendum. I believe seller's disclosures was next. KW addendum to seller's disclosures, and then the MUD. I might also need to add the tax records. So here's the tax record right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and hit save and do just a custom, so I make sure I only get the property detail page. For some reason the custom wasn't working, so I'll just do quick. Okay, so it opened up right over here. There we go. Looks like it is just a property detail page, and that's all I need. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it to my computer, hit save, and then I'm going to come back over here to dot loop, and then this time I'm going to add document, but it's going to be from my computer. So now I'm going to go back to my desktop where I saved it, put it in there, hit open, and I'll drag this just to the spot I need it. There we go. All right, now what we're going to do now is we're actually going to fill these contracts out. So I'm going to click on the information about brokerage services, and we need to go ahead and fill in some of this information, or all this information. So licensed broker firm is Keller Williams Realty The Woodlands. License number is 467-749. Email is, let me pull up my email real quick. KLRW22 at kw.com. Phone is going to be 281-364-3666. 1588. And it's actually going to be the same phone number on all of these here, except for mine. Designated broker of the firm is Bruce Kink. His email is bruceKink@thekinkteam.com. Licensed supervisor is Tina Brickhouse. Her email is tbrickhouse@kwwoodlands.com. And then I'm going to put in myself as a sales associate. Now make sure that you put in their license numbers, yourself included, and then fill in the rest of this information. And then right here where it says no one, we want to be able to make sure that our seller is assigned to these spots so that way they can electronically sign. So I'm going to click on Leslie's name, and then there it says LN. And I'm going to click on today's date and hit save. I'm going to hit back. It always asks us, do you want to share this document now? And no, I don't. I want to share them all at once. So I'm going to hit no. Okay, now let's go to the residential real estate listing agreement. So it's going to ask you, do you want autofill it? Yes, I do, because that's going to save me some time. So my seller is here. Listing agent is going to be me. Listing broker is going to be Keller Williams The Woodlands. And if I scroll down, I've got the address there, so I'm going to hit autofill. And so it automatically fills in some of her information here, which is great. So I'm going to put her address, 1310 Eden Meadows, Spring, Texas, 77386. And then whatever her phone number would be, we'll put 123-456-7890. And then the broker is going to be Keller Williams Realty The Woodlands. We need to put the broker's address, 1401 Woodlands Parkway, The Woodlands, Texas, 77380, and then put your phone number. And then your email. Okay, so paragraph 2 is talking about the legal description. So if I come back up here to my Realist Report, I'm going to see the legal description right here. So it's lot 20, block 4, Spring Trails 13. So lot 20, and you can center this by right up here, block 4, Spring Trails 13. I'll just verify that real quick. Lot 20, block 4, Spring Trails 13. Perfect. In the city known as Spring, or City of Spring, in Montgomery County. Okay, and now where it's orange here, that means that you can initial. So I'm going to hit sign now. It's going to ask me, do you want to adopt and sign? Yes. And then therefore I've been able to electronically sign it. Now if they're excluding anything from the sale of the property, such as TV mounts, refrigerator, anything that people might think would stay with the property, or technically is an attachment that should, and they want to take with them, that needs to be filled out here, and also on a seller's exclusion list. For this property, we're just going to say that they're not excluding anything. Now, is the property in an owner's association? If you have an old MLS sheet like we do, you would be able to tell if it is or not by scrolling down, and right here it says yes it is. If you're not sure, definitely ask the owners. They should know if they're in a HOA or not. And then you can, of course, you can also look at other properties nearby So if I use a little blue push button, and on the map, I search for my property, let me look for other properties that are for sale or recently sold very nearby, and we'll see if they have owners associations. So if I look at that one, click on the MLS sheet, and then scroll down, yes, it says there's a proper HOA name right there. Click on a couple more, do the same thing. There's owners association name there. And then I'll take a quick look at this one as well. We don't have to look at all of them, just look at a few just to make sure that they all say the same thing. Yes, there's also HOA. So this property is in a HOA. So I'm going to check that box. Now the listing price, now that we've ran that CMA, we know that what we should be listing at. So our max was $240, and let's just say that they said, you know what, we want to go ahead and get it sold quickly. We want the best potential of having the most amount of buyers come through our house with the potential of having the most offers. So we're going to go ahead and list at $233. So there we go. The listing is going to begin on, we'll say today, and we'll run it at least 6 months. So at the end of May. And then right here, broker's compensation, you're going to want to check box 1 and put 6% there. You want to make sure that it's enough for you and the other agent to be able to split. Make sure you initial where all those little orange boxes are. Now, this would be if you were being paid by any kind of service provider. I'm basically getting a referral fee by anyone other than just making money off of this deal. So I'm going to put NA there. Service provider would be somebody like Comcast, AT&T, a home warranty company. Now your protection period, I typically put 60 days here. And what that means is if you haven't sold their house after this contract ends, you have 10 days after that to be able to send them a list of all the people who came to see it. And if they were to go back and negotiate with one of those people to buy their house without the agents, and they're not already listed with another agent, then technically you are owed that commission during that 60-day period. It can be a shorter amount of time. It can be a longer amount of time. It's really kind of negotiable between you and the seller. But typically I would put 60 days there. Now right here, all amounts are paid in Montgomery County because that's where our Keller Williams is located. Listing services. If you plan on putting the listing on the MLS within 5 days, check this box. But if you need a little bit more time for professional photography or decluttering, staging, that, we're going to check box B, and we're going to say how many days that we expect until we put on the MLS. Let's just say 10. And for what purposes. So I'll say decluttering, cleaning, and professional photography. Unfortunately, it does not wrap down to the next line, so I'm going to have to move it down. Now, if they didn't want the listing on the MLS at all, you would check box C, but that's very uncommon. Access to the property, we use Centralized Showing as our scheduling company. And right here, you're going to put if the broker is allowed to put a key box on the property or not. I'm going to say yes. Most of the time, they always want a key box. Otherwise, they're going to have to be at that house every single time for a showing to let people in. So we can put a super on that door and allow people to schedule through Centralized Showing and just use that super to open the door. Okay, so here is where it talks about the breakdown of how much you're going to pay the buyer's agent. So if broker represents a buyer, you're going to pay them 3%. and 0% if they're a subagent, which means that they do not have a buyer's representation agreement with their buyers, and they're truly working on behalf of the sellers in the state of Texas. And if they're a non-MLS broker, we're going to pay them 3% and 0% if they're a subagent. Again, commissions aren't fixed. It's just, this is kind of what most people do, but they're not fixed. So that could change, of course. Intermediary status. We definitely want to check on the box that says intermediary status, because that's going to allow us to have any agent showing the home. If we check no intermediary status, it means that they would not want any of our Keller Williams, Woodlands, Magnolia, or Metropolitan properties to show their house. Okay, and then if they didn't want the property displayed on the internet at all, you would need to check one of these. Again, that is very uncommon, so it's not something that you would see very often. Down here, brokers authorized to market the property with the following financing options. It's really going to depend on the price point of the house, what they can qualify for. If it's $333,000, I know FHA does not go up that high right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check conventional, VA, and then of course cash offers. The owner doesn't want to do owner financing, and like I said, FHA only goes up to 326-ish, so 333 is a little bit too high. And if you're unsure, just get with a good lender and they can tell you exactly what each loan would qualify for. Okay, now seller's representations. We need to make sure that we fill these blanks out. So this is saying, is a seller delinquent on any loans or any other financial obligations? And it says seller aware of any liens or encumbrances. If they say no, just put none per the seller on both of these. And right down here, if they're working with the relocation company, you'd want to make sure you disclose that here. If not, just put NA. If there's anything that needs to be put in special provisions, you can do it here, such as if the listing agent, was representing a family member, I would disclose that here. This is only for factual statements that's not already stated somewhere in this listing agreement. Okay, so the addendum that are going to come with the listing agreement is going to be the information about brokerage services, which is already checked. You're going to have the seller's disclosures. If it was built prior to 1978, you would have the lead-based paint addendum, which this one was built in the 2000s, so it's not 1978. We are going to have the mud if it's in a water district. Let's go ahead and find out if it is. To do that, you're going to come up here to the Realist Report. You're going to look under jurisdiction and look for the word mud or water district. So Montgomery County mud number 94 is the one it's in. So I am going to check that box. And then also I want to check O and put KW addendum to seller's disclosure. And CFPB listing addendum. And then right here, we're going to put in our license number, 467749. That's a brokerage license number. I'm going to make sure I sign and put broker associate signature. And then make sure that she is able to sign. You would see her name here. So perfect. The listing agreement is done. So let's just make sure the other forms are filled out now. And we're going to hit back. I'm going to make sure I hit no. I don't want to share it at this point. Okay, CFPB listing addendum. This is, make sure her name, the seller's name is there. Hit autofill. It puts the property address there. And this is just an informational sheet for her to read and sign. So make sure that gets signed. Hit save. We have the realist report. There's nothing on that needs to be signed. The seller's disclosure notice. This is going to be filled out by your seller, so make sure that you don't fill any of this information out. Now the property address is going to auto-populate, and that's fine. But everything else must be filled out by your seller. And your seller needs to make sure they check every single box. Even if they don't know, they need to put unknown. Just make sure her initials are here so she can electronically sign it. Okay, good. So her signature is everywhere it needs to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit save and hit back. No, I don't want to share it right now. And then the KW addendum to seller's disclosures, again, is something that your seller is going to fill out, not you. So just make sure that it has her signature down here. It does. So I'm going to hit save and back. And then this is the last thing, the notice of purchaser in real property district, water district. So I'm going to hit autofill. Now again, up here on the Realist Report, we found out it's in Montgomery County MUD 94. So what I'm going to do is that if you find this information by on HAR, hovering over public records and going MUD bond information. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, Montgomery County is down here. They're in alphabetical order, but at the same time, they're not. You have all the Harris County MUDs together. And you would think Montgomery County would be right in here, but it's actually a little bit further to the bottom. It is right down here, Montgomery counties. We're looking for 94. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here to the MUD sheet. And I'm going to put Montgomery County. I need to go ahead and change the font size because it won't all fit. MUD number 94. And then these two blanks on each 100 is going to be this number right here. So 0.93. And then this next blank is actually going to be the next big number. So it is going to be 61,500,000. So 61,500,000. Again, it's too big, so I need to change that font size to like size 8 and then resize this box. And then this last blank is the next number over. So 41,800,000. Okay, and then in paragraph 2, there is a fee. We just don't know what it is, so you're going to put unknown there. And then on paragraph 3, it depends on where the property is located. If it's up here in North Houston area, in the Spring Woodlands area, it's going to be the second box. And then if you check the second box, you're going to put on paragraph B. It's going to be in the external jurisdictions of Houston. And then paragraph 4, you're going to fill that out with the property, the physical description, legal description, excuse me. So all I have to do is come down here to Realist, and I can copy this. I'm going to go ahead and put in the actual property description too, just in case I was to print this out and I needed to find out. I had a loose piece of paper somewhere. I could look down here and see what property it belonged to. You'll notice it just says seller sign here, so I want to make sure I click on that so it's green. come up here and hit assign to and your seller's name. And that's it. That form is all filled out. So it's really not as hard as it seems. I'm gonna hit back. Now, again, with that property, the insurance form, this one, information about special flood hazard areas, you're not going to know if they have it. I mean, ask them, of course. And if they have flood insurance, you're going to need that form. Once they fill out their seller's disclosures, you'll be able to find out. You'll be able to tell if they have flood insurance by how they answer this question down here. This one, present flood insurance coverage, they'll check yes or no. If they check yes, then you are going to need that form. Now, to get started working with them and to have a signed listing agreement, what you need them to go ahead and sign is the information about broker services and the residential listing agreement, the CFPB listing addendum. The seller's disclosures and the addendum to seller's disclosures don't have to be filled out that night, but you will want them filled out prior to putting it on the MLS. That way you can attach these documents on the MLS for the buyer's agent. Go ahead and take a look at. And doing a listing agreement, honestly, is as simple as that. Make sure you bring a sign with you in a lockbox. That way, whenever they sign that listing agreement, if you're going to be putting in the MLS fairly soon afterwards, you can go ahead and put the sign in the yard with the coming soon rider to generate some interest in that property. Now, two things that you want to, if you're going to electronically send to them, you want to send the seller's disclosures and the addendum to seller's disclosures separately. And the reason is because they have to fill information out on these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put check marks next to each of them. And I come out here to share, which means it will email to them for them to sign. Right now it just says can sign. What I want to do is click on that and put can fill and sign. That way they can actually fill those seller's disclosures out and then sign them for me. And so you can type them a little message and just say, hi Leslie, please fill out these seller's disclosures in order to get your listing live on the MLS. And I'm always going to hit show options and hit attach PDF to email. And then just hit share. And when you hit share, it's going to email them to her so she can fill them out and sign them. Now, everything else, you're just going to put a check mark next to. You don't need to send that to her. There's nothing for her to sign on that. You're just going to hit share. And on these, you want it just to say can sign because you don't want everything to be changed on you. So you can just say, please go ahead and sign these so we can start working together and I can get your home sold. And again, attach PDF to email and hit share. Once you've got that listing agreement signed, you're good to start working on behalf of that seller, get the property on the MLS and get it sold for them.